You thought you understood manipulation. You thought you knew how myths lived and how they died. But what happens when the manipulator becomes the message? When the lie meant to dismantle the system becomes the system? This isn't about redemption. It's about collapse, weaponized. One whisper at a time. In this episode, he fakes a confession to kill the myth, only to watch it become scripture. He creates hope by accident, then tries to destroy it on purpose. But the moment you control the story controls you. They're tattooing his timestamp, selling his voice, spinning pain into product. So he builds something darker, a message designed not to comfort, but to break belief itself. What's more dangerous than a lie? A lie people need to survive. Inside the Mind of a Master Manipulator continues. Season 3, Episode 3, The False Prophet Protocol. Play it. If you're ready to meet the version of yourself that can't be comforted. If you think you've heard it all, you haven't. Hit follow on your favorite platform now, because the next story might just change the way you see everything. Don't miss a single twisted turn. The False Prophet Protocol. They say if you can't kill the myth, corrupt the redemption arc. I wasn't trying to be a hero, but I'd watched too many villains become martyrs through revision. The unsaid were building something bigger than belief. They were scripting closure. A final confession loop I couldn't control. So I did what I always do. I seeded a virus. Only this time, it wasn't digital. It was narrative. A set of leaked, redemptive messages, supposedly recorded by me during my final days of collapse. Quiet, reflective, even apologetic. False, of course, but persuasive. They were tailored with psychological symmetry, engineered to resonate with specific trauma types: abandonment guilt, authority betrayal, identity erosion. Each confession ended with the same phrase: I am not your origin story, just the echo of your excuse. It spread faster than expected, clipped into therapy podcasts, quoted in grief forums, shared in voice clone support groups. The curator didn't reach out, therefore didn't denounce me, because they couldn't. The myth was now feeding on contradictions, and contradictions are harder to purge than lies. But here's the twist. Some of the believers liked it. They wanted the prophet broken. It made them feel more human, more powerful, like they'd survived something he couldn't. I'd meant to poison the myth, but I'd only made it more addictive. And now, they were calling it the gospel of collapse. The final lie. The message came at 2:17 a.m., encrypted, routed through 6 ghosted IPs. The subject line read, not a threat, a prayer. At first, I thought it was another trace attempt, someone trying to triangulate the origin of the false confessions. I almost deleted it, but something about the phrasing froze me. Inside was a voice recording. Real, shaky, human, female. I don't care if the redemptive messages were fake, she said. I don't care if you're real. I just need one more. She didn't name herself. She didn't cry. But the silence between her words felt older than grief. I need a version of you that survived not for me, for my brother. He still listens to the collapse tapes, still believes you came back. He thinks you're building something, that the contradictions are clues, that you're hiding the next truth inside the lies. A pause. Can you write him one more? One more lie he can live with. I closed the file, not because I was disturbed, because I was tempted to answer. Tempted to give her what she asked for. Not because she believed in me, but because I wanted to believe there was a version of me worth scripting back into existence. A false prophet can poison the doctrine, but a useful one? He becomes the final chapter. And I wasn't sure which version she needed me to be. Only that I'd already started writing it. The lie that lives. I called it Echo/3. The voice clip was 47 seconds long. A whispered monologue stitched together from dead letters, false starts, and a failed draft of my memoir. The tone was weary, gentle. The pacing slow, so slow that listeners would lean in, trying to catch the pauses between the pain. If you still hear me, it means the collapse didn't kill you. And if it didn't kill you, it means there's something in you worth surviving. No attribution, no file signature, no watermark, just a timestamp burned into the metadata. 3 hours, 33 minutes, and 3 seconds. I sent it directly to her, encrypted again. No response. But then came the pattern. Within 12 hours, Echo/3 was posted anonymously in a grief support thread titled, "Things I Pretend Are Real." Within 24, it had been featured in a TikTok trend called Last Words for the Living. Voiceovers, animation loops, people pairing it with candlelight and foggy windows. Some cried, some smiled. Some said it was the first time they'd felt seen in months. Then came the art. People tattooing the timestamp, painting it onto subway tunnels, writing it onto suicide hotline boards. I created the lie to give someone closure. But the lie I refused to stay small. It was evolving. Not as doctrine, not as confession, as hope. Hope shaped in my voice. Hope tied to my myth. Hope I never meant to give. And I realized something too late. The lie wasn't theirs anymore. It was mine. The market of myth. It took exactly 4 days before someone tried to sell it. Echo/3, that 47-second whisper, was now being repackaged into NFTs, affirmation apps, spiritual merchandise. The timestamp, 3 hours 33 minutes and 3 seconds, became a design motif slapped across candles, mugs, bracelets labeled survivor gear. A popular YouTube therapist built an entire series around it called The Scarcity Signal, Healing Through Collapse. She sold journaling kits for $149.99. They called it ethical entrepreneurship. But to me, it was social manipulation with a luxury price tag. And then the unsaid snapped. They launched a digital takedown campaign, mass DMCA filings, deepfake counterpropaganda, even a swarm of AI-generated clone messages titled Echo/3, untouched. They accused me, ironically, of capitalizing on collapse. Therefore issued a silent denial, not a press release. A single glitch in their next stream. The screen flickered. The timestamp scrambled. The voice modulator cracked. Just long enough to whisper. It was never for sale. But the damage was already metastasizing. What had started as psychological manipulation, what had evolved into a moment of accidental hope, was now currency. Market psychology turned grief into exclusivity. And I was no longer the architect. I was inventory. Just another voice in the scarcity ecosystem. Not prophetic, profitable, and nothing collapses faster than a hope that becomes a product. The anti-hope engine. If the myth couldn't be corrupted, and the hope couldn't be contained, then it had to be countered. Hope was never the problem. It was its automation. The system was now designed to replicate emotional safety. On demand, on loop, on brand. So I built its opposite. A voice clip. 1 minute. Clean audio. Untraceable source. No timestamp. No call to action. I called it 0/0. The anti-message. There is no next chapter. There is no lesson in the pain. This is not transformation. This is a mirror breaking over and over again. And no one is coming to pick up the shards. I released it silently into the feedback stream. No framing. No fake leak. Just presence. The response was instant. Some accused it of being AI hallucination. Others said it was a hack. Some tried to remix it with soft piano behind it, trying to turn even despair into ambient comfort. But others, they stopped talking, stopped posting, like something had been severed. The myth didn't collapse. It cracked. The comments became slower, more uncertain, as if the illusion of control had finally started to burn away. And in that silence, not grief, not confusion, but raw awareness. For a moment, the story stopped writing itself, and I could hear the truth breathing again. Not every ending is a revelation. Some are just endings, and for the first time in years, that felt like power. Real power, because it wasn't influence. It was release.